Hello everyone, it is Sunday, May 1st, and this is episode 60 of Odds Are, your S&P 500 weekly market forecast. Alright, let's jump right into the chart from last week. So, looking back to last week's episode, I said, watch out because it's going to be a bumpy ride ahead in the next week or 2 weeks, and I also said that the path of least resistance was for us to go down and breach that 41.68. I also said that if we breach that 41.68, the only hope we would have of closing within the expected settlement limit was if the market either pulled a big reversal, slammed the brakes, like right towards that bottom level there and turned it around so we can close above 41.38. Well, it looks like the market tried to do both, because in the middle of the week we went down, we went through that 41.68, and then on the next 2 days we tried to reverse back up. But then on Friday, we gave up the ghost and went crashing back down. The market did try to slam on the brakes, but failed to close above 41.38, so we did not stay within the expected settlement range, which is interesting because that sets us up for some interesting odds next week, which we'll cover here in a second. But we did have a breach of the breach points. We breached the 41.68 as I predicted, and the market did try to move as we predicted. So it did go down, reversed up. So I'm going to give that a green check, and it did go down again and try to slam on the brakes, but just missed closing within the expected settlement range. All right, so what does this mean for next week? Well, as always, let's start by taking a look at the moving averages. So short-term moving average is bearish, long-term moving average is bearish, just like last week. But the medium-term moving average went from bullish to neutral. So that's a bearish, step down. And, there's no need for me to explain why. You look at the charts, you can see exactly why the price action would, justify that move down in the moving averages. So this is overall, I'm going to call it a very bearish move, and the moving averages are painting a very bearish picture going into next week. Now, that does not mean that the house is going to come crashing down. Let's take a look at what we're actually forecasting for next week. All right, so let's start with the settlement range. Now, the settlement range is between 40.27 and 42.07. That's the expected settlement range. But unlike most weeks, where the odds are usually above 70%, somewhere between like 71 and 74% odds, this week the odds are only 63.3%. Why is that? Because in the last 2 weeks, we have not closed within the expected settlement range. That's 2 weeks back-to-back that we closed outside of the expected settlement range. And historically, looking back all the way to 2000, every time that has happened, right, 36.7% of the time, we have another week that also does not close within the expected settlement range. So the odds of closing within the range kind of went down quite a bit, almost like 10% here, and that's not painting a very good picture for us. But let's now look at the breach points. So your lower breach point is at 40.68 and your upper breach point is 42.53. And you have 81.4% odds that we're going to breach one of those 2 points. So let's look at this all, together and figure out what does that mean. So you have bearish moving averages, right? You have a reduced probability that we're going to close within the expected settlement range, but you still have an 81% chance that we're going to breach one of those 2 points. So what am I looking at? If I'm combining those two and thinking that we're going to close possibly outside of that range again, then I'm looking at that 42.07. I'm looking at the bounce back up. So I'm seeing that if we breach 42.53 to the top side, it's going to be a lot easier for us to also close outside of the expected settlement range. If you go down and breach 40.68, then you have to continue crashing down and close below 40.27 in order to close outside of that range. So in this case, this week I'm turning it around, saying the path of least resistance is to the upside. I think it's better to go up, breach 42.53, and then, close above 42.07, or if we do close within the range, that would be basically just coming back down below 42.07. So that's my call for this week. The other reason I'm saying that is because we are really, really stretching the bottom edge of that Bollinger Band range. So think of like a rubber band, and you also have that red midline, which is up there way above the market action, which eventually we're going to gravitate back towards. So this week might be a great opportunity for the market to kind of pull back into the range and start gravitating towards that red midline. All right, didn't see that one coming. Well, I can't really say I didn't see much coming last week because it kind of happened exactly as I forecasted, but I'm going to take this opportunity to look forward and say that if you don't see a bounce back coming, then I mean that this is a nice setup. I mean, you have to see this coming. I'm trying to share it with you guys. Now, that does not mean that there is not a possibility that the fear in the market could take over and we continue going down. That's always a possibility. But just looking at the odds, looking at the setup, looking at the combination of all the probabilities, you can't say you don't see it coming if we have a nice bounce back up in this week. All right, and we'll wrap up now with the quote of the week, who is by Mr. Warren Buffett, who I don't think I really have to introduce, but he's the chairman and CEO of Berkshire Hathaway. And Mr. Warren Buffett says that opportunities come infrequently. When it rains gold, put out a bucket, not a thimble. All right, this is awesome and works so well for our show because we're literally looking at the odds of things happening. And so when we have an alignment of favorable odds, that's when we say, hey, this is a great trade opportunity. It doesn't happen every week. I know that, for example, when we don't have a breach of the breach points the following week, it's like a 99% chance that we're going to breach one of those 2 points. Well, that's a great opportunity. That's raining gold. You got to go out there and take advantage of those opportunities, capitalize on them. That's the whole point of tracking all these numbers and seeing what the odds are so that when you have an opportunity to strike, when the odds are in your favor, you take it. All right, guys, I'll leave you with that. Enjoy the rest of your week, and we will come back next Sunday, and hopefully I was right, and it's not a bloodbath. So we'll take a look. In the meantime, enjoy your week. Take care.